Hey, Deb. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Come on in and let me know who's here. Okay, well, I'm going to get started. Hello and welcome. It is Tuesday evening, so that means it is time for my Facebook Live with the Wexford Stamper. And tonight we are going to be continuing working on our holiday treat project, not all treat, but holiday projects. And before we get to that, I'd like to go ahead and share some more cards I got in the mail today. And this is a great time, Deb, for you to be on here with me. This is a lovely card I got from someone named Deb. Thank you very much for the Thanksgiving card. Hi, Ann. Hope you're doing well. And here's another Thanksgiving card. I recognize a lot of those stamps and die cuts. And this one is from my other friend, Deb. So thank you, Deb and Deb. I appreciate you and love to see your great projects. Thank you. All right. Hi, Lisa. Hello, hello. Come right on in. I'm excited about this project. This is kind of a new project. And I kind of figured it out and created it myself. So I really, really like it. And as always, you can just sit back and relax and listen because I have a fabulous PDF here that will help you walk through each of the steps on tonight's project. And that PDF can be found on my blog. That's www.thewexfordstamper.blogspot.com. All right, excellent. So let's go ahead and get back and we'll get started. Now, I am calling this my cookies and coffee treat box. Now, the lid is actually a K-cup. Isn't that so cool? And it fits snugly right on top. And then inside the box, I have a pack of cookies. Now, these are biscuolata cookies, and of course, you know, I got them on Amazon. I will link the cookies below my YouTube video. I forgot to do that on my blog, so I will make sure I link give you the Amazon link to these cookies, but they fit perfectly inside the box. The box has six sides, hexagon, right, girls? And then this lid fits perfectly on top and stays on there really, really well. So I love this. I know, I love it. I love it. I saw something similar and that's how I got my idea. All right, now let me talk a little bit about some of the products that we're going to be using this evening. We are going to be using the Painted Christmas suite. And specifically, we're going to be using this stamp set from the suite. Now, I'm a demonstrator, so a lot of stamp sets come and go in my stamp room, but some will come in and they will be keepers forever. And this is one of those. This is such a great set and has such great two-step images, although I'm not going to be using any of the two-step ones this evening, that this is one that you can use over and over and over every year. And this is the die set that comes with it. And it has all the dies, of course, to cut out the images, but then it has these fabulous little labels too. And you know how much I love the labels. So this is just a wonderful bundle. Now, there are actually two bundles in this suite, and this is the one we're going to be using this evening. All right, so let's go ahead and get back to business here and get started. All right, I am going to be using Designer Series paper from this suite as well. Let me just show you. This is the paper that I'm going to be using. So pretty. This paper, the whole suite is just luscious. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with a piece of Pear Pizzazz paper. And this is cut at 6.5 by 5 7/8. Remember, you don't have to take any of these dimensions down. Hello, Cheryl, welcome. Oh, I did forget something. I have put the pictures up here. I had a wonderful weekend last weekend. I was able to go and see a Clemson football game. And we had a great time. It was a packed house and the team played so well. It was senior day and we just really had a great time. And that's a picture of us. We're up in the stands, and here's a picture of everybody jumping out and going onto the field at the end. There was like 80,000 people there. So we just had a ball. It was just a wonderful time. And my voice is finally coming back, so that's really good. But yes, we had a wonderful time. We left last Friday, came back yesterday evening. So we had the best time, and it's always great to get down to Tigertown for a game. So it was really fun. All right, so let's get back to our stamping here. Remember, this piece of cardstock is cut at 6.5 by 5 7/8. Now we just have a little bit of scoring to do. On the long side, that is the 6.5 inch side, I'm going to score every inch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. Then I'm going to turn it on the short side. This is the 5 7/8 side. And I'm going to score at the bottom at 7/8. And that's it. Remember, it's going to be open on the top, so we don't have to worry about making a lid because we're going to make our K-cup lid. All right, I'll grab the template here quickly. Such an easy one to cut, but this is all you're going to have to do for this. You're going to cut off this little tiny rectangle here, and then you're going to release and cut apart all these flaps on the bottom. All right, so let me show you how that's done. Here is my scored piece of Pear Pizzazz. I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to crease all of these score lines. Hope everyone else had a great weekend. It was, I think it might have been the coldest day I've ever went to a football game at Clemson, and it was still pretty warm. It was in the 50s and 60s while we were there. We're usually dying of heat stroke by the end of the game at Clemson, but it was a gorgeous autumn day there, and we just had a wonderful time. All right, so there is that small little piece cut off there on the right bottom corner, and now I'm going to just cut up to that first horizontal score line just to create these 6 little flaps at the bottom, okay? And we're going to fold all those over again. So don't really have to do a lot of cutting in between those because that's all going to be hidden, so we don't really have to do any wedging with this one. All right, let's go ahead and put our paper on before we put our box together. And for the Designer Series paper strips, let me make sure I'm looking at the right spot here. You're going to use pieces of Designer Series paper cut at 4 7/8 by 7/8 inches, and you need 6 of them because there are 6 sides to this box. All right, so I'm going to grab my Tombow and I'm just going to start putting these onto each of the panels on the box. Okay, so as I'm putting these on, I hope everyone else had a great, I know, me too. This is the paper. I've gotten many packs of this. I'm embarrassed to say how many. I'm not even sure, to tell you the truth. Just love it. It's just such a beautiful pattern, nice and bright, and really looks like the holidays. All right, we got half of those on there. Oh, and I just want to remind you that this Saturday, I am going to have a little open house, and I will have items that I typically have at a craft fair available at my home here. If you want to come and do some shopping, it's from 10 to 3. If you can't make it or would choose not to come, I will be posting the items online as well in the event page on Facebook. So either way, I'll have a lot of cute projects, and in fact, I have a few of these that will be available that day. So come on over, have some refreshments, and do a little bit of shopping. Very, very inexpensive gifts. Most are under $5. It is this Saturday. This Saturday, I think. I'm trying to, what's the date this Saturday? Isn't it December this Saturday? Oh, I can't remember. I'll have to check my calendar. Oh, it's 27. I think it is next week then. I'm ahead of myself, aren't I? All right, so what I did then is I took that last, let me show you here, that last little 1/2 inch tab there, put a little bit of Tombow on there, and then folded my box edge over from the other side, and then that creates the 6, yes, this is 27th, and that creates the 6 sides to the box like that. Now let me show you. I'm going to turn the other side over, and I'm going to put glue on all of these tabs. All right, I am gonna, don't want to put them inside, just a little bit of glue, and we're going to fold all these in to the center. Now they're not all going to touch, but I'll show you how you can put this together. Now the way you want to make sure so that you don't lose the hexagon shape is when you bring 2 of them that are opposite of each other, you want to make sure that they are facing each other square to each other. And then I'm going to bring these other ones over square to each other, and then the last one square to each other. So then it keeps the shape of the hexagon. Then I cut out a little 1 3/8 inch circle using my 1 3/8 inch circle punch, and I just put that over all of those little flaps. I'm going to turn it over, and what I like to do is take my glue and put it down there. Let's put it, come back this way. Let's try again. Okay, you want to make sure that you're keeping the flaps so that they're square to each other. I let mine slip a bit. Okay, you see how they're square? And then I'm going to put this on, and then I'm going to wait a minute before I turn it over. I think that was my problem. And then you have more of like an equilateral hexagon. Look at me using all those big geometry words. No, I think that might be you, Lisa. There we go. Now we have the little hexagonal box. Okay, then you're going to go ahead and grab your cookies. Now I think you could probably, I know a lot of cookies that come in this kind of a design packaging that you might be able to put in here too. I know some of the Oreos might come as well. These are little star cookies. I've used these before in some projects, and so I just went right back to Amazon. I just like the whole idea with the star, you know, it's kind of Christmassy. So that just slides right down into the box, okay? And then I'm gonna grab a K-Cup, okay? And you can kind of pick whatever K-Cup flavor you like, and that can be the one that you use. But the way I did this is I cut let me see, I have this written down, a 1 5/8 inch circle using the layering dies out of the designer series paper. And then I layered it on the coordinating scallop, which I cut out in the pear pizzazz. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and put a little glue on that and turn that over. Okay, now I am not going to glue it to the top because we don't want to have something glued on there when we want to use the K-cup. So I'm just going to take a couple of glue dots and put them on the back of my circle. And then I'm just going to center it right on top of the K-cup, just like that. Okay, and now that becomes the lid. Now you want to make sure that you push the K-cup all the way down to the top where the lip is, so that this thicker part, that really is the part that holds it inside the, so you want to push it all the way down so it's right to the lip, and it's just the perfect size, and it's going to keep the lid right on there. Okay, so you want to make sure that your box comes all the way up to the top. Okay, and that's how easy it is to make that box. Isn't that just so cute? I love it. All right, now, what is a little tricky about these kind of boxes is it's hard to use like a label on the side of the box because the sides of the box are so thin. So I came up with a different idea here. And if you notice here on my finished product here, I took some of the die cuts that are created by using the stamp set and kind of just made like a little arrangement and then put that on the front. Let me show you how I did that. I'll bring in some basic white paper and we'll start with the real red. And I need a set of the berries. There are the berries. I just love this set. And then while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp my sentiment, which I used from Banner Year. This one is from Banner Year. I just love that font. Such a happy little one. And the reason I used it is because I was able to cut it in half and make it fit on the side of the box because you're working with a limited amount of space there. All right, so then I'm going to grab my Evening Evergreen, and this is going to be for the little pine sprig. This is just an amazing set of stamps. There's just so many great Christmas images here. I know this one will be in my stamp room for a long time. So there is my sprig. Then the little piece of mistletoe. I used Old Olive for that one. Stamped right there. There is some mistletoe. Getting to use all the colors, all the greens I have in my stash. And then finally, we have the holly leaves. And those, I used the pear pizzazz for those. So there are all of the images and the sentiment I used. So very easy to stamp those. And then what I did with those is I ran them through my stamp and emboss machine with the coordinating dies. And let me show you how they look. These are just too adorable. There is my mistletoe. There is my holly and my pine sprig and my berries. And then I cut around closely to the edge of the word there. All right. So that's what we're going to work with here for the little arrangement here on the front of the box. All right. The way I put this together, very easy. I first took the holly And I glued those together kind of in a V. Okay, there we go. So just a little dot of glue at the base of the small one, and then put the larger one over top. So I kind of made a V with those, and they're going to kind of be the outside part of the little arrangement. Okay, then I'm going to grab my mistletoe, and that is going to be right kind of behind and inside, just like that. Same thing with my little piece of pine sprig. I'm going to slide that behind as well, and that will come up kind of, both of those are kind of in between the little holly. You see how I did that, trying to get everything nice and balanced? All right, and then I grabbed my berries, and I don't know about you, but I like just 3 of the berries. I think I've cut off every single fourth berry that I've stamped, so they must be somewhere in a pile in my craft room, but I just like the 3 is just better. You know how those odd numbers always seem to look a little better. All right, and then what I did is I just put the berries right on the front there with a little bit of tombow. So that is kind of the arrangement. Certainly you can decide if you want to do it a little differently, but I just found this to be a lot easier to use than a big die cut that would be, you know, so far, hanging so far off both sides. So I just found this to work better. Then the last thing I did is I took my sentiment here, and then I took my scissors and I cut it in half, because if I would have let it go that long, it would be just hanging too far. So I just took my glue and I just kind of put these in on an angle. Just like that. So there's the little piece that I'm going to put on the front of my little box. Isn't that cute? And it's kind of a little more tightly grouped together, so it's going to fit a little better on the box than a label would. So I'm just going to turn it over here, and I'm going to grab some of my dimensionals. And I'm going to put the dimensionals right here on the box, right a little above the center. And take those off. And then I can just position this where I want it. So it is hanging off the side a little bit, but not as much as it would be if we were using a larger die cut. So I like how that turned out. And last of all, if you all know me well enough, I'm going to add a little baker's twine bow. Gonna grab my glue dots, and I'm gonna adhere that just here to the side of the sentiment. So there you have it. That is how easy that is. So, yep, isn't that cute? You could really just use that as a tag. You're right, Lisa. Very, very easy to use. But yeah, I just really love how those turned out. And those will be available at my open house, which is not till next weekend. Thank you, guys. I'm running a little ahead of myself here. So that is my project for this evening. Remember, you can always grab the directions on my blog. This video, as well as the downloadable PDF, will be on my blog before the end of the evening. And I hope you give this one a try yourself. And I will also make sure that in these comments here, I will put the link to the Amazon link to the cookies. They're not expensive cookies, and they're just the right size for a little snack with the coffee. So I think it's a great idea for for somebody, maybe a neighbor or a coworker. All right, so thanks again for watching. I know how busy you are at this time. And everyone have a really, really great Thanksgiving. And we will see you next week. Keep stamping. Bye, folks.